Thank you so much, everybody, for having us. This has been a fantastic, fantastic reading. We do something similar in our neck of the woods, but something that we lack is the great music that you guys had here tonight. I hope that we have more of that in the future. So, VID00006, thank you so much for having us. We're going to do something a little bit weird. We're going to split up our set into two people, and we're going to read a little bit of a poem from another founder of our Lit Festival, and Elder and I back there are going to split it. So before I start, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the San Gabriel Valley Literature Festival. It's an annual lit festival, and the first year is going to take place in 2013. We're going to hold it in West Covina. Now, that is a far and mysterious land to the east. Do any of you guys know the San Gabriel? Okay, great. Yes, fantastic. Good, good, good. So we've noticed that we have many fine writers out in that area, but due to it being a kind of suburban area, due to it not having as many bookstores or coffee shops, we don't always have a place to expose our great writers and get their work out there for others to see. So what we decided to do is to host something similar to the West Hollywood Book Festival or the Los Angeles Times Book Fair. And we're inviting writers from all over the world, from all over California, to come and read with us for a weekend in February. So right now, we have established a nonprofit, and we're doing fundraising and gathering volunteers for that reading. So if any of you are interested in helping us put this reading together for next year, you can visit our website, sgvlitfest.com, or also look up the San Gabriel Valley Literary Festival on Facebook. Hopefully VID00006 will be there, and they'll have a booth in our nonprofit section and promote their work and promote their calendar and bring some of their writers. We're really looking forward to it. So my name, as I said, is Scott Creeley. I'm one of 4 founders of this festival. The main founder is a man named John Branningham. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot myself in the foot and read one of his excellent poems for you guys, so that you can think, oh, those are way better than his. But hey, what are you going to do? So this man's name is John Branningham. This is his book, one of his books. It's East of Los Angeles. It has some very nice cover art that you guys may not be able to see. We'll be selling them there in the back if you do want to get a closer look at it afterwards. It's called East of Los Angeles. It's mainly set east of Los Angeles, but many of his poems take place in Los Angeles. This one is called Icarus Lives, and it is centered around the idea that Icarus is alive and well and living in Los Angeles. Icarus lives. Sure, the wax melted, and he fell. But his father never came back up to check on him. Icarus turned the fall into a dive, and although he had the wind knocked out of him, he was able to float on his back until he was picked up by a steamer headed to Los Angeles. LA seemed the perfect place for him at first. He thought he'd capitalize on his fame, maybe get someone to ghostwrite a book for him, and hit up all the talk shows. But what he found outside of the hustle of downtown was a kind of peace in the suburbs. The weather was nice in Huntington Beach, and if he let his father think he was dead, he could avoid any further harebrained schemes involving minotaurs. He unloads the real estate now, and has a couple of kids of his own. The trick, he says in his Hawaiian shirt at a block party, isn't in telling your kids not to fly too high, but knowing when they're old enough for wings. And that's John Branningham's poem. Now I will read some of my own poems. This is from the collection Bear Flag Republic. These are all prose poems, and they're poems that are centered around geography. They are the child of like a poem and a story. And since we've had some fiction tonight and some poetry, I thought I would read these. This is called Skin, and it is based off of a car accident that I got into on a freeway out there east of Los Angeles. And I'm sure many of you have had similar experiences. This one was particularly severe. And I escaped it unscathed, but this happened. Skin. I left a shred of skin on the inside of my wrecked car. The windshield scraping off the frill of my knuckle, like a chef's knife separating a piece of dough. This tatter of knuckle skin hung there like frayed gauze, the limp, discarded flag of a ghost ship. It lost its color while I watched, changing from a pale pink into a kind of mummified gray, severed from the blood and heat of my hand, uprooted and dying with the slow regularity of a puddle growing stagnant. The Jetta had rolled 4 times in the rain, a wounded animal trying to take those last few steps before it died. Although I saw the ground rushing up from above, although a rock wedged into the open door and yanked a handful of hair from my skull, I had not been hurt until I brushed the inside of the windshield. Now, fluttering from the limp sheet of safety glass that droops inward above the steering column, is this veteran patch of my skin. Skin from the same knuckle that broke Brian Haster's nose with the sharp, sudden motion of someone splitting firewood. The same knuckle that has brushed the insides of thighs and sometimes moved deeper, sending incomplete and mysterious messages from beneath skirts and pant legs. This same wrinkled thimbleful of finger that moves along the gentle lunar incline of my girlfriend's face in the dark. This overlooked piece of myself is hanging from a shard of glass the size of a carpenter's nail, finishing the parched business of dying, and I'm regretful. This knuckle that has brushed away tears, has been cured like leather in paint chips and motor oil, now will be replaced by something smoother, by the pink skin of new growth that cannot entirely be trusted, skin that I will have to build from scratch, skin that may not turn out so well. Somewhere else, on the side of the freeway, there is also that clump of my hair, maybe dyed black, covered in transmission fluid and tar, wrapped around rocks and tied into knots by the turbulence of passing vehicles. I hope that a few strands of hair have been buffeted to other places, carried by the contrails of big rigs up into the Cone Pass to rest with the ashes of my cousin. Maybe wrapped around an axle and brought up north, where a blue jay will tuck it into her nest inside the latticework of the Golden Gate Bridge. These silly dreams are important, because this piece of skin is not going anywhere. It will be towed away with the car frame once I clean out my possessions, a secret bit of humanity tucked into the crushed hulk such places make of cars, hidden away inside the wreck we make of the world. So to keep up with the geography poem, I have another poem that takes place out in Rancho Mirage. It's called Leukemia. This laryngitis is killing me, Scotty, says my grandfather, lashed to a hospital bed with plastic hoses and paper blankets. He says laryngitis instead of leukemia because of the morphine. I know I shouldn't try to correct him, but I'm confused and too young to believe someone when they tell me they're going to die, and so I do. Leukemia, I tell him. It's leukemia. The word has the weight of impending weather. It almost darkens the halogen lights for a moment. He looks frustrated, his skin turned yellow tissue paper wrinkling between his eyes. Then instead of arguing, he just squeezes my hand with a hesitant kind of softness, as if to remind me that he loves me, even if I didn't turn out so bright. Whatever you want to call it, he says. And here's one last poem for you guys before I turn everything over to Elder. Just to keep it super dark, I'm going to write about my father as an undertaker. 2 cups of tea poured into the grass. Out in the garage, under a dirty light bulb, I read that the part of the brain which holds a capacity for faith has only the volume of a popcorn kernel. This seed lights up for meditation, for the sweaty prayer or the low uneven gurgles of a woman who speaks in tongues and retains nothing of her ecstatic ecstasy. Prayer. This idea makes sense to me, because yesterday, my father, an undertaker, called and told me how he'd guided 2 little girls to their parents' grave, where they laid out a blanket and 4 cups of tea, 2 of which they eventually poured across the dead grass just below the headstone. With my eyes closed, the phone humming against the side of my face, I think I feel that knot of cells flaring to life in the salty nebula of my gray matter, like a searchlight piercing the water to find a destroyed car with 2 parents but no little girls. Maybe this clump of cells is like a signal flare, clawing at the sky in bursts of yellow and red, before falling back to earth and hissing out. But possibly, this knot is nothing more than an exposed light bulb hanging in a garage, collecting dirt and the cooked skeletons of moths, until the wire inside snaps, broken beneath the strain of constant illumination. So we have a monthly reading in the Glendora bookstore on the 2nd Saturday of each month. And we'd like to see all of you guys out there. We have an open mic, and then we have 2 features after that. It's a very similar setup to you guys. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over the rest of our segment to John Elder. Elder Zamora.
heights. Is it okay if I stand here? Is that distracting? I ruined everything.
Stand where you want to.
Is that okay? Okay. So I'm going to start off with a poem by John Branningham again, the main founder of our group. And John's a professor, and when I was in his class, he made us read very boring books. And this poem he wrote about a boring book a book he thinks is boring. I don't know if you guys will also agree. It's called When I Call. As I talk to her, I like to think of our paperback copy of Thomas More's Utopia sitting on the phone table. No one reads Utopia. No one has ever read Utopia. No one has ever wanted to read Utopia, not even Thomas More. The only action it will ever see is when she absently flips its pages while she talks to me. When I call, I like to think of her doing that. Not to my poems. Mine are also geographic in nature. I grew up in Southern California, and I was familiar with this. And then I moved to an island in New England, in Massachusetts, which is really big culture shock because an island is really hard to live in. So I wrote a couple poems about that. This is called 2 a.m. Sometimes when we're laying in bed, I like to look out the window across the bay to where the city is, up to where the lights spring up. They're all colors, and even though it bothers her to leave the blinds open, she knows I can't sleep in the dark. I like to imagine that the water is America, that I'm looking across an entire country, to my city, to my lights, and that tomorrow when I take the train to work, when I push an elbow out onto platform crowds, I might see a face I recognize or that recognizes me. And maybe they'll nod and say something like, "Don't worry," or "It will work out. You haven't blown it." I like to think that across those waves and buoys lies a place familiar to me, where I know the streets and won't get lost or even scared anymore. But the water is her country, and laying quiet next to her, watching her face catch the lights, I know it's them that are making her restless. They make me restless too. Has anybody ever killed anything or anyone? I hate the idea of killing anything.
Fly.
A fly, yeah, no, anything that you kill is really disturbing to me. Chopsticks, yeah. I don't know if you guys know the Massachusetts Turnpike, but there are big stretches of it where it's just empty. There's nothing out there, just trees. And I was driving down it one night, and I hit a raccoon. But it didn't die yet. It was still alive for a little bit. And this raccoon. Its hands are that of a baby. But under my headlights, under thick November night air, its breath is that of my grandfather, labored and deep. When I step out from the car onto salted road, when I walk to stand above it, when the chill of my breath goes past my eyes and onto nothing, I know there is no what to do. The turnpike is unforgiving. The ash trees and their bare branches are unforgiving. But if we are to be here, let us be here with each other. If another car rushes by, let them blame me for standing, for pacing on icy ground. This moment will pass, and so will we, as will the ribcage and the lungs, the rise, the fall, the open eyes looking away from me, the way the fur calls to my numb fingers buried in coat pockets, for a touch to remain in this world, fingertips to carry a memory of lights passing in a whir, I and it alone. This is a poem I read about walking on the beach. And when you walk on the beach, you find a lot of things. One of the nicer things to find is sea glass. If you've ever seen it. Sea glass. It's Sunday and I've come down to the shore to walk. I'm supposed to walk every day for an hour. They didn't say where though, and usually coming to the shore feels like cheating. It pleases me to think I've got one up on them when I take off my shoes and half bury my feet in the sand. This isn't walking, it's shuffling through sand and bits of clam, driftwood, a shoelace wrapped up with a strand of kelp. Maybe my feet will find something today and make this walk really worth it. Maybe when I get home and she's waiting for me to make sure I didn't goof off, I'll dig through my pocket and on the armrest of her chair I'll place it. So wonderful, so mysterious. And she'll smile and not notice that I was only out for 40 minutes and not an hour. Maybe it will come from far away, a note in a bottle, a locket, a sea captain's watch, or just a piece of rolling rock bottle, worn dull and round from the waves that carried and crashed it against rocks that don't care how far things come from. Maybe that will be my treasure, that little bit of Latrobe bursting green when I hold it between my face and the sun. Maybe I will sit with it for a while, let the moon come up, see how that looks when I hold it up, and my fingers trace a scratched, glassy surface, absently looking for a beginning and an end. It's called a blood poem, and that blood really grosses me out. Today I broke a dish. It was her dish. Mine are still packed because they are cheap and she says ugly. It wasn't a dish that her mother's mother had kept up on a shelf and that she said had come all the way from Sweden on a boat, back when sweets still came on boats. It wasn't a dish that her father had mended with dime store glue and used to keep quarters in, so when Friday came around, those quarters turned to beer. No, I didn't know what kind of dish it was when I broke it, but later, after I had swept and cleaned and apologized, that last piece found itself on the rug and then into her foot, and for the second time that week there was blood. The first from a roast that was too big for a pan, and when I put a knife to bone, there was blood. I made a joke about Abraham and sacrifices, and she said there was blood on my floor. That's what kind of dish it is, I think. A blue ceramic blood dish. To make our home holy with sacrifice. To remind me hours later, when I found a dry droplet on the linoleum, that I had once rushed through ventricles in her heart, and that made it worth something. That when my own weak blood rushes out in thin streams when I shave, should not be taken for granted. Should not perhaps soak a bit after bit of tissue paper, only to end up in a wastebasket, without the slightest reflection or ritual. Let us think then of whatever village or town or shtetl our blood came from, across an ocean and a country, across wars and cornfields, bus boycotts and coal mines, across veins and arteries and capillaries, hundreds of miles of them, doing the work steadily and only sometimes with complaint, so that when you press your hand against a lover's cheek, you feel the warmth of those smiles and the sanctity of that sacrifice. This last poem is about a fight I had with my girlfriend. So she's never read it, obviously. Memorial Day. Dear Sarah, across the Saugus Bridge is our weekend, and the Cape and sleeping in and gin and tonics. But we are on the bridge along with everyone else, and the longer we're here, the clearer it becomes that we're fighting. I wasn't sure when we left the house, when I turned to you and asked if you had my keys. Were we fighting then? Or last night when you went to bed first? I thought you were just tired, and maybe you were. But sitting here, stuck between families and New Yorkers and SUVs, I can't help but to retrace our steps back days, weeks, trying to find the point, the clear point that led to this point, here in a car over a river with nothing to say. But I will say this. I will say that I was wrong. I will say that I was wrong because, Sarah, the longer I know you, the longer I love you. It clearer becomes that you are usually right, and that we end up not moving at all today. Let's let that be our weekend. Thank you very much. We want to invite all of you to check out our website and friend us on Facebook. Just look for San Gabriel Valley Literary Festival or just stvlitfest.com. If you like John Branningham's work, we are selling that book back there, along with collections of CDs from some SUV readers that are just excellent. So thank you again. It was a great reading. Thank you very much.
Keep going.
Keep going. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, San Gabriel Valley Slip Festival. All right. Let's open up the open mic once again. Next up, fellow Isaacs writer, Henry Chow.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's an honor to be up here. And I shall share something a little more fragmented and a little more vague. So bear with me, because it's going to be a snoozing night. The title of this piece is called A Dry, Cloudy Day. Cloudy day, strips of fragment lights, color path. Motion slows, time barely tick-tocks, sleepiness. No bird sings, no bumblebee buzz, just stillness. Distant hills hidden behind fogs lends no voice. No neighbors, no one but calm air, absentees. No wind hints, tree stands still, no budge, no leaf fall. Phone pole stands, no electric buzz, just talk cut short. Cell phone's dead, not battery's fault. No signal. Stretched dry road leads nowhere close by, nowhere home. Go if must, and watch travel scenes pass you by. Golden grass, full of empty hopes, offers loss. Jackrabbits hop for food, but eats no dry grass. Beyond both seems hides a dark cave, stay away. Further out, a small lake rests near. A lake here? Is it there? Could just be a dream. Come closer. A quick storm blows across the eyes, vision lost. Pure darkness, and no more is seen. Death no more. Wind rushes painful, loud buzz rings, rattle shakes, moment pass. Vision comes but mutes only again. No small lake, no cave anywhere, just dry roads. Roads stretch far, miles far, only of dryness. Dry road stares back into the eyes, only grins. Light fragments, pauses, moments, time, cloudy day. Quite a gloom on a cloudy day, what I see. Thank you. If you can, now you guys have to wake up now.
This is a wild guess, but that's Isaacs, isn't it?
That was, actually it's very comparable to Isaac, but actually I wrote it a while back before Isaac. But it's very good connection with Isaac.
He's cheating on us.
Is this your other club, 60?
My little club.
Next up on the open mic is Michael.
I just got some short stuff to get rid of this chair.
So I'm going to do what bunnies.
Actually, I've got one that I really, one about a really scary bunny, but I don't have it with me. I'll bring it sometime. It's a very obnoxious bunny. Okay.
Is it the Trix Rabbit?
Worse than the Trix Rabbit.
Oh my God, that's not
Worse,
possible.
much worse than the Trix Rabbit. Okay. These are some short pieces I took out. And I've got them all. Okay. There's a man in the alley where the clowns died. He has in his hands something that is veiled, something that I cannot clearly see. He sings, and voiceless children stand around him. He moves as if to uncover what he holds. In the alley where the clowns died, there is light. Okay. This one's titled Forming, after the Germs' first single.
Yes.
Although it has nothing to do with it, except it kind of does.
Oh.
Except it kind of does in a way. It's like the rhythm of the single.
Oh,
Actually, it's
awesome.
more like the rhythm of Sex Boy, which is completely random.
No rhythm whatsoever.
No rhythm
Yes.
whatsoever. Yes. The hillside, falling away like amber into the sea. The female principal, she makes me bite the post of silence. I am a cur, no cur. The wood well gnawed. Dogs and anti-dogs. Sinister and subtle movements. Men in suits selling pictures of something. Something that means something. Rough drafts and sketches for a still unformed universe. Things half imagined. Things not yet known. Entrainment in another direction. Machines cutting into the hillside. Imagining another form. I was in a really vague, hungover state of mind when I wrote that.
Awesome.
It was really vague and hungover. Okay. This is one, I just came from working in an office. I spent the day in an office, and this is an office poem. This is an older office poem. The office technology has changed, but the reality is still there. It's called Dock of the Bay. Offices are a way of organizing the universe. Paper, pens, pencils, desks, typewriters, paperwork, and phone calls are the zen and physics of this discipline. The polyester souf and the landscape of escrow and loan documents help us arrange space and time in a manner as perfect and profound as Newton, Dante, Einstein, Crowley. All life and order is an upstream swim against entropy. The office salmon stands in the river with current speed equaling fish speed. Therefore, our swimmers stay stationary in the system for the moment. For the moment, the system stays stationary in eternity. Only the salmon thinks that the river has stopped.
I really enjoyed